Hi everyone, I haven't posted a video for a while. I've been out riding and having fun and training. But this video is about my experience running a Rekluse for the last 4 years and then switching back to a manual clutch at the start of this year. Now I'm just running the cover on this bike. Apparently the cover is a little bit tougher. There's the factory cover there that I just haven't put on. There is the Rekluse that I pulled out several months ago. I ran a Rekluse with a left-hand rear brake for about 4 years in a whole lot of different bikes, and it was good. It was great. It did what it needed to do, and while I was developing my skills, it helped me concentrate on a lot of other skills like balance and rider position and things like that. However, what it didn't do is allow me to do a whole lot of things for hard enduro. Now, Tristan Hart, Canada's top rider and probably second or third top rider in the US, comes to my place in the wintertime to train. And of course, I get a lot of time riding with Tristan. And he said to me, how do you ride using a Rekluse? Like, no one that does really, truly hard enduro uses a Rekluse. And at first I didn't quite get what he meant, but after switching back, it made me realize that there's a whole lot of things that having a manual clutch gives you a whole lot more control over your bike. Now, seeing that my balance skills had developed and everything, the only reason I really ran the Rekluse is because I liked the idea of having the left-hand rear brake, especially for the really gnarly downhills that we've got a lot of here. And I still do run a left-hand rear brake, although I don't use it very often. It's an accessory one. It's a hydraulic ox brake one that just sits in between the master cylinder here and the brake pedal, and it just pushes that where it's usually got that little heim joint. It just pushes that apart, pushing the brake on, and I have a lever up here underneath. Now, I only ever use it on really gnarly downhills, and I'm even using it less and less as I'm getting more and more used to using the foot brake again. I covered this in another video, that I use this tread pad here that brings the lever back a little bit so you can actually reach it with your boot. Don't know why, but KTM and Husky tend to make this longer and longer every year. Less chance of actually being able to touch it with the end of your boot without lifting your foot up and heel over to be able to touch it. So I run that. I got that off Chris Birch in New Zealand. I actually got a couple of them. They're pretty neat. I'll run them on all the bikes now. Just gives access to that brake much better. Now, as far as the clutch is concerned too, being able to do zaps, being able to use the clutch to be able to get that RPM to get up over things is very, very important. So when you're relying on the automatic clutch, you don't have that same control. It comes in differently, it disengages differently. It's not doing exactly what you would do if you had a manual clutch. The other thing is going up really gnarly hills where you've really got to be on the gas, where you've got to be on full throttle and basically using the clutch to regulate the traction. The manual clutch tends to multiply the torque going to the back tire. So if you're in, say, second gear and you're doing a really gnarly hill climb and you're slipping the clutch, you're actually multiplying the torque that's going to that back tire. So you can regulate how much drive you're getting up the hill without having to get out of power band or throttle off. Whereas with the Rekluse, and if you weren't using the clutch at the same time, you would be having to regulate it 100% on the throttle. Doesn't always work so good. The other thing is over rocks and slow technical stuff. With the Rekluse, it would disengage at lower RPMs, which it's meant to do, but sometimes you wouldn't want that. You'd want the engine torque to be able to keep pushing you over the obstacle. So after all these years of running the Rekluse and going back to a manual clutch, I would never go back to a Rekluse again. So it's one of those things. If you're really having trouble controlling the bike, or you're wanting to learn your other skills, it's not such a bad thing. Even if you're a reasonable newcomer to riding, it's not a bad thing to run the Rekluse. It's going to help you develop other skills until you're ready to go back to a manual clutch again, especially if you're running a foot brake and you're used to the foot brake and everything's all good. But yep, Tristan was right. Running a manual clutch is much better for control, much better for zapping, much better for hill climbs, better for going down hills. There's really no circumstances that I would find that the Rekluse would be of a benefit to me anymore. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell. It was good for when I needed it, when I didn't have as much talent, and now that my talent has increased, I find that it gives me quite a bit more control over what the Rekluse would give me. So yeah, any questions, just put a question in the comment section, and most likely I'll get back to you pretty quick and answer it. We're still out riding during this COVID thing. I feel bad for everybody that isn't. We've been pretty lucky in Canada that the government hasn't put the brakes on completely, and especially when it's something that is fairly contagious but not very harmful, especially to people that ride dirt bikes that are usually a little bit fitter and healthier than old people that seem to be dying occasionally, which they're blaming on the COVID. So this bike's getting a clean up this week and maybe getting sold. So a new bike coming into the stable. It will be another one of basically the same thing. I love these bikes. The fuel injected 2-strokes are really where it's at. I really wouldn't want anything else. And I'm really, really happy with the new WP Exact X-Act suspension and the air forks. I really have not had to do anything to the suspension on this bike. I've checked the settings. The settings were great for me. Did a little bit more preload on the rear spring and dropped the forks recently just down a little bit for tight technical stuff. And I run about 125 PSI in the front forks. And it seems to be perfect. I absolutely love the bike. It's been awesome. But it's a good time of the year to upgrade while bikes are still available, as bikes might be a little bit unavailable until the end of the year because the factory shutting down for a little while. But yeah, as I say, any questions about Rekluses and clutches and control, just put a message down in the comments. Thank you.